Imagine living in a city where, a chilling figure, a guy known only as BTK, terrorizes your community for over 3 decades, leaving behind a trail of fear and unanswered questions. Welcome to QuickCasters, where we delve into the captivating narratives of history's most intriguing figures. Today, we're taking you on a deep dive into the story of Dennis Rader, the notorious BTK killer. Prepare to unravel the origin, rise, and fall of a seemingly ordinary man who led a double life, hiding a monstrous secret that would haunt Wichita, Kansas for generations. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
This case is a stark reminder that monsters can sometimes hide in plain sight. Dennis Rader, on the surface, was an active member of his church, a Boy Scout leader, a family man. Yet beneath that veneer of normalcy lurked a darkness that few could have imagined.
It's almost impossible to reconcile those two sides of him. So let's start at the beginning. What can you tell us about Rader's early life? Was there anything that hinted at the darkness to come?
Rader's childhood in Pittsburgh, Kansas seemed ordinary enough. However, some experts believe that certain aspects of his upbringing, coupled with emerging psychological factors, might have contributed to his dark path. Even in his youth, there were signs of disturbing fantasies, a fascination with bondage and strangulation that foreshadowed the horrors he would later inflict.
Those early fantasies are truly chilling. It's as if the seeds of his later crimes were planted early on. But how did those fantasies transform into action? When did Dennis Rader become the BTK killer?
The transformation from fantasy to action is a complex one, and it's still a subject of much debate among psychologists and criminologists. In Rader's case, it seems his dark urges festered for years, gradually escalating until they could no longer be contained. His first known murders, the Otero family murders in 1974, shocked Wichita and marked the beginning of his reign of terror.
That's right, the Otero family murders. Can you walk us through those events and what made this case particularly horrifying?
On January 15, 1974, Rader entered the Otero home, brutally murdering Joseph and Julie Otero and two of their children, Josephine and Joseph Jr. The level of premeditation and the chilling details of the crime scene immediately set this case apart. It was clear that Wichita was dealing with a killer unlike any they had encountered before.
And the way he carried out these murders,
Yeah.
it wasn't just about taking lives, it was about control, inflicting pain, and terrorizing his victims, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The BTK moniker that he later adopted stands for bind, torture, kill, and it accurately reflects the methodical and sadistic nature of his crimes. He meticulously planned each murder, taking steps to subdue his victims, prolong their suffering, and ultimately end their lives through strangulation.
It's a chilling thought to realize the level of control he sought to exert over his victims. And to make matters worse, he didn't just vanish after the Otero murders, he continued to haunt Wichita, claiming more victims and leaving behind a trail of fear and uncertainty.
His subsequent murders followed a similar pattern: careful planning, a focus on control, and a terrifyingly meticulous execution. Each crime sent shockwaves through the community, intensifying the fear that gripped Wichita for years to come.
Okay, let's talk about the victims for a moment. Who were they, and what do we know about their lives? It's important to remember that these weren't just statistics. They were real people with families and stories.
You're right, and it's essential to honor their memory. The victims of BTK span various ages and backgrounds, from young mothers to elderly women, each with their own unique lives and loved ones left devastated by their loss. The impact on their families and the Wichita community as a whole was profound and long-lasting.
And the fear that must have permeated Wichita during those years, it's almost unimaginable.
Right.
Knowing that a serial killer was operating in their midst, preying on seemingly random victims, must create a constant sense of dread. Can you talk about how the city reacted to this growing threat?
The city was indeed paralyzed by fear. People were afraid to leave their homes, constantly looking over their shoulders, wondering if they or someone they loved would be next. The Wichita police were under immense pressure to catch this elusive killer, but the investigation was proving to be incredibly challenging.
And this is where things start to take a particularly sinister turn.
Right.
Because BTK wasn't content with simply committing these heinous crimes. He wanted to be known,
Yeah.
to be feared, to play a twisted game with the authorities and the media.
Exactly. The emergence of BTK's communication with the police and media added a whole new layer of terror to this already horrific case. It was through these chilling letters, poems, and cryptic clues that we began to glimpse the mind of a killer obsessed with control. recognition and the perpetuation of his own macabre legacy.
And those communications weren't just idle boasts or ramblings, were they? He was actually providing details, sometimes very specific details, about his crimes. Taunting the police with his knowledge and audacity was like he wanted to be caught, but on his own terms.
Precisely. He craved the notoriety, the fear his name evoked. He wanted to be acknowledged as the mastermind he believed himself to be. These communications weren't just about instilling fear. They were about manipulating the narrative, controlling the story, and ensuring that the legend of BTK grew with each terrifying installment.
Now, before we dive deeper into these communications and how they ultimately played a crucial role in BTK's downfall, I want to remind our YouTube viewers to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're just getting started with this deep dive into the BTK case, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.
Stay tuned as we unravel the twisted path of Dennis Rader. From his chilling origins to his eventual capture and the shocking revelations that came to light. This is a story of both darkness and resilience, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable evil, justice can ultimately prevail. BTK's communications were like chapters in a horrifying novel, each one adding to the mystery and terror surrounding him. He often referenced his crimes in detail, boasting about things that only the killer could know.
And it wasn't just the content of his messages that was disturbing. He seemed to revel in the act of communication itself, using different voices, styles, and even personas to further confuse and torment those trying to catch him.
You're absolutely right. He seemed to relish the psychological game he was playing. One moment he would present himself as remorseful, the next as cold and calculating. It was all part of his twisted performance, a way to keep himself at the center of the narrative he was creating.
One of the most chilling examples of this was the letter he sent after the Otero family murders. Right. I remember reading about this letter. It was found tucked away in a library book, and it contained all sorts of disturbing details about the crime scene. It's like he wanted to ensure that everyone knew the extent of his depravity.
That's exactly right. The letter, addressed to the Wichita Eagle newspaper, was a horrifying confession. Detailing the killings with a chilling detachment, he even included a poem titled, Death to Nancy, a disturbing foreshadowing of his future crimes.
And in that letter, he signed off as BTK, forever etching that chilling acronym into the annals of criminal history. It was a declaration, a branding of his own evil, and it would become synonymous with fear and uncertainty in Wichita for years to come.
That signature, BTK, was more than just a name. It was a symbol of his power, a reminder that he was always watching, always in control. It was a psychological weapon that he wielded with chilling effectiveness.
And as if the murders and the letters weren't enough, he also started sending these strange packages to the police and media.
Right.
They were filled with all sorts of bizarre items, dolls, jewelry, even a cereal box with disturbing drawings on it. What was he trying to achieve with these packages?
These packages, often referred to as BTK's communication boxes, were like puzzles designed to further taunt and confuse investigators. Some experts believe he was trying to convey specific messages or clues, while others suggest it was simply another way for him to exert control, to keep everyone guessing and on edge.
It's almost as if he was trying to create a macabre scavenger hunt, leading investigators down a twisted path of his own design. But amidst all this fear and confusion, the Wichita police were working tirelessly to solve these crimes and bring BTK to justice. Can you tell us a bit about the challenges they faced and the strategies they employed in this complex and terrifying investigation?
The investigation was a long and arduous process, fraught with challenges and setbacks. The police were dealing with a highly intelligent and elusive killer who seemed to be always one step ahead. They had to sift through thousands of tips, interview countless potential suspects, and analyze every piece of evidence with the utmost care.
It must have been incredibly frustrating. Always feel like they were just a little bit behind him, always reacting to his moves instead of being able to predict them.
Absolutely. And the pressure on them was immense. The public was demanding answers, and the fear in the community was palpable. But despite the challenges, the investigators never gave up hope. They were determined to catch BTK and bring an end to his reign of terror.
And it was during this period of intense investigation that BTK seemed to go silent.
Yeah.
Right? There were no more murders, no more communications. Did he simply disappear? Or was this just another part of his twisted game?
That silence was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the entire case. For years, BTK vanished from the radar, leaving the people of Wichita to wonder if he had moved on, died, or was simply biding his time, waiting for the right moment to resurface.
And resurface he did, much to everyone's horror. But this time, the game had changed. The world had entered the digital age, and BTK's reemergence would coincide with a technological advancement that would ultimately prove to be his undoing.
That's right. The very technology that BTK thought would allow him to communicate anonymously, to maintain his control and misspeak, would inadvertently become the tool that led to his capture. It's a classic example of hubris, of a criminal underestimating the power of even the simplest technological advancements.
And for our viewers who are just as fascinated by this case as we are, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the final chapter of this chilling tale.
Stay tuned as we delve into the events that led to BTK's downfall. From his ill-fated foray into the digital world to his dramatic arrests and the shocking confessions that followed. The story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, is far from over. It's almost as if BTK was lulled into a false sense of security, Like he had gotten away with his crimes for so long, he might have thought he was untouchable.
And it was a simple newspaper article that brought him out of hiding, right?
That's right. In 2004, a Wichita Eagle reporter, Hearst Laviana, decided to write a story commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Otero family murders. It was a look back at the unsolved case, a reminder that BTK was still out there, a ghost from the past that continued to haunt the city.
It's almost like he couldn't resist the temptation to reinsert himself into the narrative, to remind everyone that he was still in control.
And that's exactly what he did. Shortly after the article was published, BTK began communicating again, sending letters to the Wichita Eagle, leaving cryptic messages, and even placing packages in public places. It was as if he was announcing his return, a macabre encore to a terrifying performance that had been on hold for far too long.
And this time, he was even bolder, wasn't he? He actually sent a letter containing photos of one of his victims, photos that had never been released to the public. It was a chilling reminder of his crimes, a way to terrorize the community all over again.
The inclusion of those photos was a clear indication that BTK was not only back, but he was also escalating his game. He was taunting the police, daring them to catch him. But what he didn't realize was that the game had changed. The police were now equipped with new tools and technologies that would give them a significant advantage in this renewed cat-and-mouse chase.
And one of those tools, perhaps the most crucial one, was a simple floppy disk, right? It's almost ironic that a piece of outdated technology would play such a pivotal role in bringing down a serial killer.
The irony is not lost on anyone who has studied this case. In one of his communications with the police, BTK inquired about whether it was safe to communicate via a floppy disk, believing that it would be impossible to trace.
It's almost as if he was living in a technological time warp, unaware of the advancements in digital forensics that had been made since his last spree.
He severely underestimated the capabilities of law enforcement. The police, recognizing the opportunity, assured him that a floppy disk was indeed a safe way to communicate. They then set a trap, instructing him to leave the disk at a specific location.
And he took the bait.
Didn't he?
Hook, line, and sinker. BTK, eager to prove his intelligence and maintain his anonymity, delivered the disk as instructed. But what he didn't know was that the moment he touched that disk, he was leaving behind a trail of digital breadcrumbs that would lead the police straight to him.
It's like a scene out of a crime thriller. The moment the forensic experts analyze that disk and discover a deleted file with the name Dennis, that was the turning point in the investigation. Further analysis revealed that the disk had been used on a computer registered to the Christ Lutheran Church in Park City. And as fate would have it, the president of the congregation was none other than Dennis Rader.
Talk about hiding in plain sight. It's almost unbelievable that the man who had terrorized Wichita for so long was living a seemingly ordinary life, active in his community, a respected figure in his church.
It's a testament to his ability to compartmentalize, to separate his dark urges from his everyday life. But that facade was about to crumble.
And his arrest was almost anticlimactic.
You could say that. After weeks of surveillance, confirming his identity and gathering additional evidence, the police decided to arrest Rader in a way that wouldn't raise suspicion. He was pulled over in his car while driving home for lunch.
Imagine the shock, the disbelief that must have swept through Wichita when the news broke that Dennis Rader, the seemingly mild-mannered church leader, was in fact the notorious BTK killer.
It was a revelation that sent shockwaves through the community. People were stunned, struggling to reconcile the image of the man they knew with the horrific crimes he had committed.
And once in custody, Rader didn't resist, did he? He confessed to everything, recounting his crimes in chilling detail, almost as if he was reliving them, reveling in the attention he was finally receiving.
His confessions were both horrifying and fascinating. He described his methods, his motives, and even his emotional state during each of his murders. providing investigators with a disturbingly intimate glimpse into the mind of a serial killer.
And the evidence they found at his home was truly unsettling, wasn't it? Photos of his victims,
Yeah.
trophies he had kept, journals detailing his twisted fantasies. It was like stepping into the lair of a monster.
The contents of his home were a testament to his depravity, a tangible representation of the darkness that consumed him for so long. But amidst the horror, there was also a sense of relief, a feeling that justice had finally been served.
And in the end, BTK, the mastermind, the manipulator, the self-proclaimed genius, was brought down not by brilliant detective work or cutting-edge technology, but by his own arrogance and a simple desire for attention.
It's a reminder that even the most cunning criminals can be undone by their own hubris, their inability to resist the allure of the spotlight, the need to be recognized, to be feared, to be remembered.
The story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of normalcy. A cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating the power of even the most seemingly insignificant details. And for our viewers who have joined us on this journey into the heart of a terrifying case, we want to thank you for your time and your interest. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the BTK case, be sure to subscribe to QuickCasters for more captivating explorations into the lives and minds of history's most intriguing figures. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious.
Subscribe and give me all I love.